Welcome to the Three Layouts Tour featuring Joe Binish, Bill Sampson, and Ken Zieska. Joe's going to cover the C of M, Bill Sampson's going to cover the GN in 1970, and Ken Zieska is going to show us that there's more than three people that enjoy modeling S-scale. Enjoy part 3.
For Three Layout Tour, for Three Layout Tour.
Good evening, happy Friday. Welcome to the Minnesota Heartland Railroad. This is S-scale, for those of you that haven't seen many S-scale layouts around. My name is Ken Zieska, and I'm assisted by Tom Gazier and Joe Binish tonight. So we're going to show you the railroad, and while we're doing that, Joe is going to operate the Minnesota Heartland turn that goes up to Central Soda. He won't get it done in the time that we have allowed, but it'll give you a chance to see where he goes. First thing I'm going to tell you is that the house is about 1,500 square feet, and the railroad goes around the whole house. Goes through the bathroom, through the laundry room, and then loops around. The outside loop is a loop. It's got operations on it, but it's designed like that because there are times that I just want to run a train. And I have other friends in the S-scale community that like to run trains, and so they can bring over cars and locomotives and just run the wheels off. We like that. Recently, I tore out this whole end of the layout, and this used to have a big hill mass that went through here and some hidden storage tracks behind it. But I just didn't like it, so I tore this out, built a prairie scene, and then built visible storage. And that's storage and staging, which is what you're seeing right here where Joe is. So Joe, your clearance now. Joe has a switch list. I guess easier to show you his. On the back of the switch list is the instructions. He's got his engine card with his DCC address, and then it's a switch list. This tells him what's in the train, how it's blocked, and where it goes, the location number. And then this is the work he does when he's up in Central Soda and Gray Eagle. So he'll be pretty busy. This is probably a 2-hour job, but Joe's pretty brilliant. He'll probably get it done a lot faster.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I'm departing then.
There you go.
Love the S-scale. Anybody want to buy some HS scale freight cars? Here.
How many operators in a session, Ken, can you have? Matt Clare's asking.
Matt Clare would like to know, I have 3 jobs that are running right now, and I have a 4th that I'll add on, plus my staging. So I can operate 4 or 5 people. There's more that you could, but I like to keep things pretty laid back. And so Joe left on the joint trackage, and all the railroads run on this joint trackage. When they get back into the wash and dryer area at dryer, he'll split off onto a junction, go onto Minnesota Heartland trackage, and so he's got 60 feet of railroad that's all his. No, he doesn't have to worry about anybody else out there. There's also 2 industrial lines that are out there, and they're all on their own also. So I'm going to start up. Let's start up a mainline train. I have Digitrax DCC underneath the whole system, but I also run RailPro, and I like this system. It's really neat. So very, very straightforward. So I just acquired my locomotive, and it's right here. It's very easy to link and unlink locomotives. One of the things that I just learned how to do from Bill Brillinger was notch up. So it's a neat toy. So we're going to really notch it up to make the hill. Now we'll notch it back down now that it's over the hill and let it go. This is a line that encircled the whole layout. We come in, we see that Joe has made it up into Central Soda. He's now on Minnesota Heartland trackage, and so during the whole session, he's off by himself. You can see everybody's close, and that's one of the things I still like, the camaraderie. It's only one click, Joe. There you go, one click. There you go, you got it. Great. So for my operators, in addition to the switch list, I give them a map. That tells them where they're going, plus every spot has got instructions on the fascia. Kind of anxious as we get more operators in here to see how this works, and so that they can tell me, gee, we really need more information. It's like we're talking, you provide too much information, they don't read it anyway. So
That's the consensus.
Reading's hard.
Reading's hard.
So let me take you back here and show you this area is going to be like downtown Minneapolis, the alleys, and as you can see, I'm kind of roughing in buildings, but it'll be a main line that goes through there, and there'll be industry on either side. This will be a warehouse flat. That's a warehouse flat that I'm building. Takes a little bit longer to do some of these things in S-scale because you've got to create a lot of things yourself. But I'm looking forward to operating this. I've run trains through there. There's 3 different ways to do crossovers. So I know that it's going to function very well. I can bring trains in here, and I could actually run a couple crews here, but that gets stressful, and life is full of stress, and I don't want to do any more. Back in this area, this is my power plant, but the power plant is only accessible from that line over there. So as we go over there, you'll see what's significant about that. Let's go back over to the other side. Right over here. So just back in the dryer area, and it's pretty hard to see back there, but that's where the line splits. And there's 2 junctions there. One junction goes up to the Minnesota Heartland, and that's the second track. And then the front 2 go to these 2 industrial areas. This is the F line, and I modeled it. The inspiration was the Northern Pacific line that went through northeast Minneapolis. Pendergast Cement was built by a friend of mine, Tom Lennon. He's from the Kansas City area, and And the Pendergast people are well-known political, well, let's just say political force down there. And it's reputed that a number of Mr. Pendergast's political enemies were buried in concrete, sort of like, that's probably where they got the idea for Jimmy Hoffa. So, but then on the up line, you come through this curve, and again, you're all on your own trackage. There's plenty of, oh, there we go.
Fellow S-Scaler Mike Ostertag says hello.
Hello to Mike Ostertag. So come in on the up line. Again, there's area to go do all your run around here. And Krumitz, Pendergast. There's 26 different spots on here. And I'll usually run a 7 or 8 car train in here. And the idea is that during an operating session, you'll have an AM and a PM job. In downtown Minneapolis, they had crews that were working the switching district all the time, and people were bringing more traffic in and out for them. This is, we talked a little bit earlier about the power plant, and in order to get to the power plant, you've got to cross over right there. That I hand built that diamond. And I put a stop sign there, and eventually I'm going to put a crash board in there.
What code rail are we looking at?
This is all code 100 rail.
Hand-built turnouts?
Fast tracks turnouts. Yep. I use a lot of flex track. I started out with the plan of hand building everything, hand laying all my track, but I decided that I only had one lifetime, and there's no sense spending building trackage. So here's Krumitz. Again, it's an industry that's got a lot of work to do, but that's the great part about railroading is you've got time to do it all.
This scale allows you more detail.
You know, and that's one of the things that I like is I don't have to have as many of anything. I can take time to do a little bit more detail on things.
Stop sign, okay.
Yeah. So this is why I like to do two-man crews is because if you're operating the F line, you're here and you're in the other room. And so it's nice to have a two-man crew so you can have your engineer here. You can be working the turnouts. You can be cutting cars, offsetting the couplers. If you're going to be working the power plant back there, you need 2 people because you have to have one person here, one person there. Folks don't like to do 2-people crews, but because of the distance that we have to handle, that's part of the reason why I'd like to do that. Let's go back into the other room here.
Can I ask a question, quick?
Yes, sir.
It says I'm picking up GATX 56319, which is a tank car. It's at C10. If it's blank here, that means I bring it back with me.
Bring it back.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep. So on this side, I've got, let's see, standard distribution. My uncle was a Standard Oil man, and so that's standard distribution, tank cars and box cars.
I'm jealous, Ken. This one's beautiful.
Thank you. This spot here is the freight house, and 4 spots for freight house, and then a team track, sunshine biscuits, and incoming grain and flour on the backside, and then milled products here. One of the jobs, and Joe is seeing this on his, he's actually got jobs where he has to take something off the Great Northern Interchange track and put it on the team track over here. In this case, if you were running this job, this box car goes back over to Krumitz. So he will actually pick it up from here and run it back to the other side of the wall. So There you go.
Inter-railroad switching.
Yep. Inter-railroad switching. Yep. So let's look at Central Soda a little bit. We'll get the magic wand.
There you go.
I have the magic wand of power. So this is the main line that comes through here, and Joe has come in on the secondary main, and so the first thing he's going to do is spot his caboose up here. Oh yeah, sure, right on camera he did that.
Well, it's always.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
I know, it's not your fault. Well, I don't know what happened there.
No, thank you.
I'll show them all your scenery over here.
That's never
Pay no
happened.
attention to what's going on.
Yeah, pay no attention to the man behind the. That's never happened before.
That's the real train going by.
Yep. Oh, and yes, the Canadian Pacific goes through the backyard.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, we're back with the arrow.
It
Oh,
was
look,
the Sioux line
a
when I got
gazebo.
here.
Okay.
So he has spotted the caboose at the here at the depot. Picked off. This is the interchange track from the Great Northern, or from the Minnesota Heartland East, and that connects with the Great Northern. This is the grain elevator in the coal yard. I've just recently gotten in contact with some guys that are grain elevator modelers, and one, Tony Dixon out of Iowa, is just giving me amazing ideas on how to detail this scene. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And then
Speeder shed in there.
little speeder shed, yep. So this was a monster model building. This is Hidden River Models, and that was Blue Ridge or Blue Mountain. So did a custom. Oh, I like this. This is brand new. This is from Iowa Scaled Engineering, and I'll show you. In fact, if you see can you come and take a look at the gondola load that. Those are all Iowa Scaled Engineering culverts. They're just gorgeous, man. They came in a shorter length standard, and I said, "Gee, I want to build a couple of gondolas." And so he said, "Well, I could make them as much as 7 inches long." So I said, "Yeah, that's what I'd like, but no packaging." So I said, "I'll take them that way."
This is monster model work.
This is not. This
No.
is.
Look at the brick detail. on there.
Pine Canyon Models, and so it's WOG distributing in honor of Command Sergeant Major that worked with me for a long time, who was in the distribution business. Terrific guy, and I wanted to honor him by putting him on my layout. So this is and Joe's actually going through the tightest curve on the layout, that little industrial curve. Well, yeah, right.
What would the radius be on that?
That's probably about 22 inches.
Oh, it's not even trying.
Well, I know, but for us scale, that's pretty tight. The rest of the main line here is a 60-inch main line, and you can go down to 32-inch. But I like to stay with a wider radius if I can, just because it makes the trains look better.
They look good.
Now,
Thank you.
can you tell us about the depot?
I can. The depot was originally by Banta, and then Des Plaines Hobby brought it out. And as it originally sold, it was a shorter freight house, and he offered the opportunity to get the longer freight house, so I built that. It's a Sioux Line Class 2 depot, just a gorgeous, gorgeous model. I don't know that it's out anymore, but it's something I really like.
Hey, that was nice.
The speeders here, which are kind of neat, they're off of, and I'm sorry, I should have looked up the name, but it's a Shapeways site, and they're just really delicate, really nice operate. They don't operate, but they're just nice scenic pieces.
3D printed.
3D printed, yes.
Those the ones I painted for you?
Yes, they are. As a matter of fact, Joe painted those for me. Thank you, Joe.
Nice.
Got Got grain doors sitting there ready to be installed. So that's also one of my favorite rail fanning. One of the reasons why I like to have open spaces is I like to rail fan, and so I like to watch the trains come up and go around.
All right.
Okay.
Take your fingers and go like this on there. There we go. All right. There we go. All right.
Good. Good. Okay. This is the Minnesota River, and a little tongue-in-cheek. And a feature that I guess I didn't point out too well as we're looking at the scenery is another kind of inspiration I had in Dave Jasper, who's a local model railroader, put in this rockwork and hand carved it, which is really great. So as I redid this area, I'm trying to retain some of that, where this is the transition that goes into the Dells area. It looks like it may be more mountainous than it should be for Minnesota, but if you would go up by the Dells area, by Carlton, this is what the NP went through. One of the reasons why I put this hill in there is for the casual observer. If you're sitting back about where your camera angle is, the train actually peekaboos and hides behind the hill, which I think is effective. You don't want to see the trains all the time.
Static grass to use?
Static grass. And I learned from the at the narrow gauge convention, and then learned a lot more when I watched Rich Romera's presentation at the modelers meet about 3 weeks ago. But to one of the points Rich made, you can see this is all at different levels, and part of what I'm trying to do is get my colors right. So this is only the lower level, and it's just completed, just so I'd be ready for tonight. Now that it's done, I'll come back with the hairspray and I'll add in the upper levels, and I'll do more tinting. I've got a few details in here, but scenery is one of the things, as Rich pointed out, that you continue to do in layers. And so I'll end up with a piece like this. It's a little bit more developed, where I've got the deeper layers in there. This is a Scenic Express, I believe a Martin Welberg piece.
Are you into narrow gauge? Something to ask.
I am not.
No narrow gauge.
No narrow gauge. This is a future project I want to do real quick, and that is I'm going to put water in there. These are the culverts, again, from Iowa Scaled Engineering. Then I've got a little hunter and dog. My dad was a great outdoorsman, and so was my brother. I went in the Army instead of doing hunting, and I got enough outdoors doing that. Another thing that my wife and I put in was we had to put in a campground here because we bought a camper and we started traveling. And so this is just a marvelous rail fan spot. See a little wildlife back there. Unfortunately, there's a little extra wildlife showing up, so we think that they're going to interrupt. I don't know, maybe they're coming for the garbage. But just fun, whimsical scenes. Don't want to take things too seriously.
How your turnouts are controlled by just hand throws then?
Right. So I have several areas where I can't reach that are tortoise. Otherwise, I use caboose hand throws, and I find them really handy. One of the things that I didn't really appreciate until I talked to the guy from Caboose at the train show in St. Paul is he talked to me about the difference between sprung and unsprung, and the what they have for throw and what you need for clearance. Well, I was buying the larger sprung ones because I thought, well, I'm in S scale, so I have to have more clearance. Well, They actually are they have 190 thousandths throw for 130 thousandths clearance. Well, I don't do that because I fast tracks everything. I don't need to do that, so I can use the HO throw. The only difficulty, and this is minor difficulty, is the HO throws are smaller, and prototypically our hands don't get smaller. Oh, can't throw that one, there's an engine on top of it. So this is the difference. This is his larger one, and here's his smaller one. And so I'll probably continue to migrate here to these. So
Who painted your backdrops?
So this part of the backdrop was painted by Dave Jasper, and he did that a number of years ago. More recently, all this backdrop in here was painted by my wife. Dave and Marilyn are both just highly skilled painters, and so I'm very, very fortunate to have that. In fact, she's my scenic advisor. I usually do it until I feel until I'm really happy with it, and then she comes and fixes it.
You did well on the clouds. I like that.
She did, yeah. Dave showed her how to do clouds, and then she's picked up and done that from her. So.
Should we check in on Joe?
Let's see what Joe's up to. I'm sorry?
I need another track over here.
You need another track.
Well, more brain power for the conductor.
What's up?
Nothing. It's just,
Oh, okay.
there's, it's not a puzzle, but you have to be careful, and I've missed a couple of things.
You know, and I'm glad he said that because it's because I built it and I've operated so many times. It's second nature to me. But a new operator, there are certain orders of things to do, and it doesn't hurt from time to time to slough off the cars he's bringing back and put them over here on the depot. But
Did I mess up by coming in on this track as opposed to this track?
no,
Okay.
no. People do it either way.
Yep. Oh, so it's been done before.
It has been, yep. But
There's no excuses, is what you're telling me.
no. I'm just saying it's not without its challenges.
Yeah. No, I think I've got it licked now. I'm ahead
Yep.
of the game now. So
Yep.
finally.
But I'm happy to do this because I'd like to have an experienced operator like Joe here, because he'll help me learn things that I need to do to make it better for somebody. Because I'd like to have anybody come in. I want to keep it low key. That's why every job is off on its own. So if you get up here and you really get all balled up, that's okay. It's no big deal. We can come and just straighten it away. You don't have to feel embarrassed by it. And then the next time you come back, you're just that much more experienced. So.
I'd like to leave my caboose there again.
Sure. Go ahead. Just the conductor likes to spend time in the depot because the depot agent's wife makes really good apple pie. So the longer you let him stay there, the better off he is.
Well, you notice how I pushed him down a little ways.
Well, it's okay.
Think you heard it?
He's in at the table enjoying himself.
All right, now I can make some hay.
Yeah. One of the things about S-Scale we enjoy is a lot of 1/64th cars. And so I've been watching Williams, how he modifies cars. So I'm going to take some axles and bend them to get them to shape the other way. And that's a good point. If you haven't gone onto YouTube, onto Williams' channel, and seen the Great Northern in 1970, video that he just put up today. That's a great one. You really should see that. A lot of fun. What do we do for time?
When did we start?
I don't know.
I think whenever Joe's ready to go back, and
Okay.
we're still entertaining almost 40 people. So
Okay. Well, as long as we haven't put people to sleep, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
just Joe.
Just Joe.
Yeah. What do you mean? I've been asleep for a long time.
So I've got a lot of neat projects going. S-Scale had some nice resin boxcars coming out. They came out recently, and so I've got some resin cars that I'm building.
What would you say to anyone wanting to get into S-Scale?
I'd say two things. One is make sure you, before you get into S-Scale, make sure you're either a really confident modeler, or even if you are, make sure you have friends that are in S-Scale, because it's not as easy as the other scales, but that's okay. There's things that you can't do. If I were doing an industrial, like 2-foot by 16-foot industrial switching layout, S-Scale is phenomenal for that, because it's big enough that the detail's there and it's easy to operate, and that would make it really great. If you wanted to model a transcontinental railway with 26-car passenger trains, or whatever the major passengers were, this is not the scale for you. If you wanted to have all the latest techno toaster power, this is not the scale for you. But first generation, second generation, steam, all really readily available. You got a lot of guys in the S-Scale community that are really willing to help out, and that's fun. If you're in the Twin Cities, we have a group that gets together and we do a lot of work on each other's layouts, or just helping each other out. That is, we used to, and we will again when this thing all clears up.
Was that just an S-Scale group or a tire modeling group? Or?
Well, we have an S-Scale group, but the Twin Cities, one of the things that makes the Twin Cities so great is we have such a great community. If you 3 weeks ago, the Twin City division of the NMRA put on a modelers meet, and that was phenomenal. The presentations that were there were just great. The models that were on display were fantastic. Even though I go there as an S-Scale modeler, I come away every year with ideas on how to do things. There's a terrific example there. I set up a display on how to put signage on the side of buildings. There was a couple good presentations on operations, and I took away good ideas from that, which you've actually seen on, that I've incorporated even in these last 2 weeks. So that's a great part about the Twin Cities area. A lot of people that are willing to help you. Now this is my favorite hero shot, that when you see the train coming up the hill.
Now, what is this line down here then?
This is the it actually comes out of the staging, and this is the line that comes all the way through the bottom, and this is how the trains get up onto the outer level. And so at the beginning of every operating session, I'll have a train up in Ascension, which is on the top, and he has to switch out the industries that are up there, because at that time the guy where Joe is, or these people, are still down here getting ready. So he switches up there, and then he comes all the way back down, and he'll come around and get into the junction, which is right let me show you the junction here with the magic wand. He'll come to this junction and he'll get off and go here, and this takes him all the way through hidden storage and through all the industrial areas back into staging. And then the staging ferry or the staging man will be building a new train on this longest track here. And so he'll come in and he'll be able to turn around and then take another train out. And he'll operate, then he'll do the Heartland grain, and he'll die up on the top of the hill. And that gives me some balance so that not everybody's standing at the same place at the same time. But this yard, in fact, it's good. This yard has got, none of these tracks are designated on this side. The guy running the yard can do whatever he wants with them. We tell him typically to save this long track for the train that's on the outer loop. These two tracks are arrival departure, so the guy will come in here, the switcher will take his cars away, and then we're making up trains here. This train happens to be set up for the freight yard. There's a train that's halfway down there. He's ready to go for the F line, and then these cars are all just staged to go wherever they need to go. I don't use car cards, and part of the reason is a box car is what a box car is. So if I need a bunch of grain cars to go up, well, these are empty box cars ready for grain. If I need some box cars to pick up flour, well, I pick up flour. If I have things coming in from outside, I will designate them, and then the guy that's running the staging yard knows that these 4 cars right here, example, are all inbound freight for the freight house. And he gets that. I don't need to do a card. Maybe someday I'll do cards, but I just don't see that they add any value for what I'm doing right now.
Is this staging yard active during an operating session?
It is active during an operating session.
All right, Joe Farrow wants to know what's an average rail car weigh in S scale? What are you trying? NMRA standards? Or?
I try to go a little heavier than NMRA standards.
So heavier.
Heavier. So that's kind of a good point. I used to work for a coining mint, and so inside of all my box cars are at least 3 ounces of bronze coins. So some of these are coins that, of course, I have a collection of coins that I got when I was in the military, but I have a lot of extras. So if anybody wants to, I've got weights, all sorts of nice bronze weights. So that's pretty much what I've got going here. Are there any other questions that I can answer?
Who makes resin kits in S scale?
Smoky Mountain Model Works is one of them. Who was Oliver? Pierre Oliver made 2 of them, and but he's only made a couple, and he's back out of it.
Does Plains, do they make any end?
The Plains makes a lot of. They're actually doing a lot of injection molding. We lost Ron Sebastian. That was a tremendous loss for the whole model railroading community, but we're convinced they're going to still do a lot of good things. I have kits that were done by Kelso and kits that were done by Train Stuff that I'm still working on, and then there's a company up in Canada that's just introduced some new parts that I'm looking forward to building also. But there's still a lot of kits out there. Yes, sir.
Do you use KD couplers or another brand?
I do. I use KD 802s.
802s.
Yep. Now I've tried out the San Juan Car Company's got a new ON3 coupler, and I've tried out those. They're a little big. They're nice. The reason some people like them is because they give you a little extra gather and a little extra height, but nothing that I really needed to have. So KD 802s work fine.
All right, we're getting near the end. Joe, you ready to come back, or?
Oh yeah, see Joe's.
The clouds are painted, Bill, by his wife.
Yes.
And who told him?
Dave Jasper. taught her
Dave
how to do it.
Jasper. They're beautiful. Video doesn't do it justice.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, let's see what the question is.
I have 2 cars over in Gray Eagle that are slated to go to C10.
Yep.
Will I go pick them up and then shut them up? Or
Yeah.
go back on the way up?
We'll get in front of that. But again, you're on your own end of the railroad. You can get them any time you want to get.
Any other questions? Anybody?
I sure have enjoyed having everybody over, and I look forward to when our social distancing goes away, having some operating sessions, having some people come over and try it. So hopefully I'll keep doing more things between now and then. But I am interested in having people come and run it and see how things work. Things that I can do to make it work better for you.
One more question. Do you solder your track? I suppose fast tracks or?
I do solder fast tracks, and then when I'm putting down the track here, I'll solder 2 or 3 sections together, and then I'll leave expansion joints.
All right. Everybody says thanks.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much for dropping in tonight. Come back anytime.
Whoa, 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 hold the bus. Joe Binish has worn off on Ken. What's with the arrow? All jokes aside, a huge thanks to Ken Zieska for taking the time to give us a tour of his S-Scale Railroad. If you missed part 1 with Joe Binish's C of M, or part 2, Bill Sampson's GN in 1970, be sure to check them out. Be sure and subscribe to this channel if you're looking for future content that's entertaining. Or not.
For 3 layout tour. For 3 layout tour.